Welcome to the Millennial Life Coaches podcast. At MLC, our mission is simple: add value to help you take on massive action towards your life goals. Here, we feature amazing coaches from all over the world, share compelling stories, and discuss proven practices to help keep your energy high and in the flow. Learn more about MLC at millenniallifecoaches.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of How to Get Ahead with Millennial Life Coaches. I am Tanya, your host, and today I am joined by the amazing Sabrina. I just tried to say her last name, it's already evading me, and I am not going to say this incorrectly on a podcast. So, Sabrina, I'm going to let you say your own last name, but welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Tanya. So my name is Sabrina Del Duca. I know it's a hard last name. I know. Usually I get Del Duca. That's a little more common, but
I'm like, I have one of those names too, where I'm like, I just want to make sure that people are saying it right because I feel like it's just a respect thing. Anyways.
yeah. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, welcome so much. Thank you for joining me today. So, Sabrina is an amazing coach. So, Sabrina specializes a lot with women who are kind of in that leadership role and really kind of hitting that burnout stage and help them figure out what comes next, how to overcome it, and how to shift things. So, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. Well, it's something I speak from experience about. So definitely being a high achieving, very ambitious, driven woman, I was in a corporate career and I hit that burnout. And when I hit it, there were so many questions that came with that. There was confusion, there was shame, there was guilt, right? At the time, too, this was in 2019, it wasn't talked about as openly as it is today. So there was a lot of misconception around, well, what does this mean about me? And if I openly say I've hit burnout, how will that be received? Will I be judged? Will I be hired again elsewhere? Will my boss think that I'm able to do the job? Like so much circulating in my brain around all of that. And for me, the burnout, what I realized, it wasn't just about being exhausted and drained. And that's where I feel a lot of women kind of get hung up on, well, if I just take that vacation, if I just take some time off, if I just book that extra spa weekend, because I did all those things. And then I got back to work and nothing changed. Because we had to realize, and what I realized for myself, that it was actually the nature of the job for me that was no longer aligned with who I was or who I was becoming. And that took a lot of inner work to just accept that that's where we were at. And when I did do that, and I gave myself permission just to see what else there could be, that's when my entire life changed and opened up. And so, me having to navigate this by myself at the time, there were obviously a lot of trials and errors. There was a lot of, hardship, a lot of questions, a lot of, emotions. I just wanted to be able to help women get to that next step with a little more confidence and reassurance, a little more clarity. And so when I went through that entire journey, and again, realizing that those band-aid solutions are not going to fix it, getting to the root and knowing now, okay, what does this mean? How can I not also identify myself as my job and really get to the root of who I am and what I'm becoming, and then align what I want to do with that? I eventually found myself on the path of a coach, and I was like, well, this is exactly what I want to help women do. And here we are.
Love it. Oh my goodness. Okay, there's so much to unpack on there. That was such a beautiful story. So thank you for sharing your experience. I love doing these because coaches are always like, well, it started based off experience. And I'm like, isn't it so true? Like we do the thing we overcome and we get to help others with
Absolutely.
it in such this beautiful way. So let's kind of go back a little bit because there's a lot of questions that came up with that. But let's talk about that identity shift that you kind of talked about. So when we think burnout or we think exhaustion or fatigue or all of that, I don't think a lot of people just kind of immediately understand that it's that identity shift that comes with it. So, what did that kind of look like for you? What do you see that looking like in others? How, I guess, as a listener, could I be like, I think I'm teetering this and maybe that's it, but I'm not quite sure what she means by that.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. For me, there was, well, the fact of trying things to help myself get that energy or get that rest and recharge and nothing working. So
Mhm.
if you're listening and you're like, I feel a bit drained and overworked, and I've already tried going on vacation, taking time off, changing a role at work, getting help, or getting support for the task, and nothing's working, then I would start to dig deeper and say, like, okay, well, this is maybe beyond surface level of things that we just need to fix and put in place. Like there's something at the root that needs to be aligned. There's something that is misaligned. And that's what I learned about myself too. Like it was no longer about the job. It was about, like, again, who I was becoming. But that identity piece, as you mentioned, Tanya, that is a hard one because when our identities are tied to what we do, like I was the advertising girly, I was the corporate girly. And if I was not that, who would I be? Well, then we get uncomfortable because we're like, okay, wait a second, identity crisis. And that's why we don't ask ourselves these questions because we don't want to know the answer. We know the answer is going to be a hard one and it's going to mean change. And that's why we avoid.
Fair, fair. And that kind of falls into a line with like when you were talking about the identity, another thing that you said when you were talking about this that really kind of struck a chord with me is maybe it's just the nature of the job.
Hmm.
And I think that that was so profound and so powerful because we do what we're told, right? We go to school, we get the education, we get the job, and we expect to stay in it. And
Yeah.
sometimes we outgrow that version of ourselves. Is that a common thing that you see?
Absolutely. And you say it so beautifully because I also refer to it as outgrowing this chapter of your life. And I think, especially for our generation, we were modeled that you do pick a job and you stay in it for life. And so the idea of outgrowing or changing your mind or wanting something different, wanting something more, it was not really talked about. And so when you start to have these feelings, like for me, it was the feeling that there's something missing. But quickly, because on paper, my career was amazing and I worked so hard to get it and I was so proud of where I was, then I thought something was wrong with me. And then I was like, well, who am I to want more? Right. So I think it is healthy to have these conversations and to ask ourselves these questions. And it is totally normal. And I love to normalize in general the idea of outgrowing people, relationships, situations, right? Like everything in life can have a season, can have a chapter. And that's just part of who we are as humans and part of the evolution.
I love how you said that because it very much is that cyclical, like seasons, we ebbs, we flow, and things
Yeah.
are constantly changing. Um, you've kind of hit on this a few times now, and I really want to go into it because I feel like a lot of our listeners might be having the same kind of natural feeling that comes up. We kind of talked about the shame cycle a little bit of like, just that guilt almost of like I've come this far and now like it's not working and I'm tired, I'm not giving myself 100%. I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that when we're
Yeah.
on that overdrive path of wanting to give it 100%, knowing we're not giving it our 100%, whatever that might mean. Um,
Mhm.
do you have any tips, advice, or strategy for those who might be kind of in that cycle on how to
Yeah.
kind of bust out of it?
It's a hard cycle to be in because it's like, it's icky. You don't want to be there. So, the advice that I would have kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it would be to just accept that this is what's coming up. Because the more we resist it, the harder it is. Right? So the more resistance we have towards like, oh, I don't accept that I am at this position or that I've reached this point in my life, that I feel this way, that I think this way, it's just going to kind of magnify and amplify the feeling even more. So my advice would be it's here and it's here to give you some information. So let's accept it. Let's actually thank it. Like I'm going to even go a step further. Let's say thank you, guilt and shame, for being here because you're trying to tell me something that I need to listen to. And then the next step would be like, okay, well, what is it telling you? And for me, the guilt and shame, it was the idea of having worked so hard to get to where I was and then wanting something more,
Mm,
right? So it's like, okay, but acknowledging that, yes, I did work so hard and I did my best and coming back to permission to want more. because again, it's my life and I get to choose what I want to do next. The other thing could be maybe, because this also came up for me, what will they think if
Mm.
I change my job, if I make this drastic decision? Mine was drastic, by the way. I left with no backup plan. Don't recommend it, but that's where it got to for me. But for me, it was like, yeah, what will they think? What will they say about me? And that's where we have to start maybe asking ourselves, why do we care so much about what they think? And that's a whole other conversation.
I was gonna say, do we want to go down that rabbit hole right now? Because that's a huge one because I think a lot of people that's where the guilt and the shame comes in. You've hit on two very powerful questions of
Mhm.
what will they think and who am I to
Yeah,
want more? And I
yeah,
really do believe those are two of the most profound questions that come up right before we do something really big in our lives.
absolutely.
Getting ahead shouldn't mean burning out or following some outdated playbook that never really fit us anyway. That's why I wrote Intrinsic Leadership. It's a guide to help you reclaim your influence, align with your purpose, and lead with confidence without losing yourself in the process. Inside, you'll find stories, reflection prompts, and practical tools you can actually use to lead your life and work your way. You can grab Intrinsic Leadership on Amazon, Audible, or bookshop.org. And a huge thank you to Millennial Life Coaches for featuring me. I'm Melissa Castro, leadership coach, consultant, and author. Come connect with me on Instagram at intrinsicleadllc or find me at www.intrinsiclead.com. Let's level up and lead from within.
Oh goodness, I don't even know where to go from here. Okay. So many questions. So, what kind of activities or things can someone do? So, maybe our listeners are in this and I'm starting to feel like I'm in this stage and I need to take a little bit more ownership. Maybe I'm asking myself these questions and I'm really coming to the realization that like there is something more for me and I need to make this change.
Right.
What kind of things can I be doing to kind of prepare myself for maybe not doing quite as drastic as walking away with a backup plan? Although, hats off to you, that's really impressive. I don't know if I could do that. What kind of things or suggestions do you have for our listeners that might be kind of at that point?
Well, I will say when you're in confusion or turmoil or this kind of like gray area, I don't recommend making a rash decision or taking a risk right at that point. I thankfully did walk away because I had a very insightful conversation with my boss who had been through something similar and kind of shed light on the fact that I was meant for something different. That, like, this chapter is done in my job and I've done everything I could. And now let me explore what else there could be. So maybe it's about having a conversation with someone you trust on just opening up possibilities of what else there could be. If you're more of an introvert in the sense of like you like to do some self-reflection, I would ask questions like, when was the last time that I felt really lit up? Like, what was I doing where I just felt like I was making a difference? I was inspired, or like I really felt like I was happy and I was waking up energized and like ready to take on the day. Because then the next step would be to put yourself in situations or to do activities that bring you that joy so that your energy can kind of start to be rejuvenated in that sense. And you're clearing your mind of the scatter of the confusion to be able to make a decision with a little more clarity. Yeah.
I really love that because it's kind of aligning the thoughts with the feelings.
Hmm. Yeah, because if our thoughts are, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? And I can't, like, I'm so confused. Well, you don't want to make a decision from that place. And in terms of feeling as well, you're not gonna feel like doing anything. So it's almost like if the thoughts are not aligning, even just lead with the feeling, being like, where do I feel good? And start doing activities that make you feel good to help you clear your mind and have those two parts of you just interact. And of course, I mean, if you have the ability to do so, this is what coaches are here for, right? To support you on this journey because most of us have been there. And, that's where we can really help you and maybe allow you to see things that you're unable to see for yourself. And that's totally normal. And especially in this, like, towards the end of my experience, I did have a coach help me because I got to a certain place I could on my own, but then from there I was like, okay, well, now like I've done so much, only so much as I could do on myself. And then it's like, okay, coach, help me out.
Megan, I love it.
Hi, listeners. Kelly Ling here, ICF certified executive coach and founder of Stork and Spark, where I support ambitious, expectant, and new parents navigate career evolution and identity. I was honored to be a featured guest in a recent episode of Millennial Life Coaches and love the community this team has built for us millennials. I'm excited to offer listeners a complimentary Power 20 session where we have 20 minutes together to tackle your big questions like how to tell work you're pregnant, how to return to work from parental leave with confidence, and how to actually enjoy being a parent and lean into parenthood and career as part of your identity. Find me on LinkedIn and send me a message mentioning this podcast, and I'll share next steps. Cheers, y'all.
So what does a typical client experience look like with a coach like yourself? Because coaches are fantastic. And for many of our listeners, if we've never actually worked with a coach before, what kind of things can we expect?
Ooh, what a question. I love it. Well, I'm the kind of coach, and I guess you could tell by the way I speak and my energy, I'm your biggest cheerleader, but I'm also going to tell you straight. So I want to help you grow. I will always help you to maybe see things from a different perspective because that helps you to then see what other possibilities there are. And I will always empower you to make decisions for yourself. One of the biggest things I say is you always have a choice. You have a choice to stay stuck, as most of my clients come to me feeling stuck. But if you've already reached out, you've already made a choice that you no longer want to be stuck. So that's a good thing. You definitely need to be willing to put in the work. I guide you, but you do all the work. I'm not here to give you advice or templates or scripts. I'm here to really just listen and meet you exactly where you're at, hear about your vision, your goals, your dreams, hear about the blocks that have been holding you back, those patterns, and then we kind of break those down together. We do that through mindset work, through somatic, through nervous system, healing, because that's a big one too, and really getting to the root of what has been holding you back so you can finally break free. And then we take aligned action. So then we kind of say, for you, what makes the most sense? What would be your next step? And again, having you lead with ideas that feel good for you and me just guiding you to get to those ideas and that on your own.
I love that. I want to backtrack a little because you said different ways that you do it. So there's mindset work, there's
Yeah.
somatic work, there's nervous system work. It's something that a lot of people are talking about, especially as of late, but it's not necessarily as clear what that can actually do for you. I find when a lot are speaking. So can you tell us a little bit about the perks of working with like the somatic approach, the nervous system, and kind
Yeah.
of working that way?
Well, it depends on the person. It also depends on the block that you have on the limiting beliefs. So I'll always start with mindset because I feel like that's the easiest way in, where, for example, mindset would be, I believe that I'm not capable. I believe that I can't do something. And I've had this belief that's been just like running in my mind forever. And so that is what's gonna basically be the lead or be how I show up in the world. And so if I'm challenged with an opportunity, or I'm challenged or I have an opportunity, and the first thing I think of is I can't do it or I'm not good enough, then it's going to hold me back. So we work on where did that thought come from? How can we reframe it? What can we replace it with? Right. So there's different ways depending on what the thought is. And then if I tell myself that new thought, how does it propel me forward? When it comes to somatic, it's, and I would tie there's somatic and there's emotional as well. So it's really allowing yourself to feel into the sensations in your body and also feel your emotions. Because a big piece for me in my healing journey and my ability to make decisions with clarity and confidence is being willing to feel my emotions and to recognize that my emotions are just there for information, which is something I mentioned earlier with the fear or with the guilt and the shame. But emotions for me was something that I was so scared of because I didn't know how to feel them. And I feel like a lot of us are there too. Like we've never been taught how to feel our emotions. And so just learning to sit with your emotions and knowing that scientifically, just 90 seconds is all it takes for the emotion to move through you. And the way that I love to explain this is that emotions is energy in motion, emotion. It needs to move. But what we do is we bring it up to our head and we analyze it. We tell ourselves a story, it gets into a loop, and then it stays. It stays longer than it needs to. So the emotional work and the somatic work is really dropping into your body and identifying where do I feel it in my body. It's taking it out of the story in your head, bringing it into your body and just being like, okay, I feel it in my heart. What does it look like? What is it? Does it have a color? Um, does it expand? Does it extend? And really just giving it the acknowledgement that it's looking for and allowing it to just dissipate on its own. And through my sessions with clients and doing the work for myself too, honestly, in a few minutes, it already feels lighter because we're just bringing awareness to it, we're bringing attention to it, and that helps you to unblock or get unstuck from that energy that you've been just holding on to. So it's important in the process as well. And then there's also nervous system that's tied to it, where it's like if your nervous system is dysregulated and you're always in the response of like a fight or a flight or a freeze, well, that's going to obviously impact you when it comes to making decisions or doing something new. So we learn how to calm our nervous system, how to like regulate it to help you to take that aligned action.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so if I'm out there listening and I'm doing what I'm already doing and shaking my head, being like, yeah, I love everything that she's saying, how can I find you?
I have a website. It's my name, sabrinadelduca.com. I'm also on Instagram, very active, Duchess Sabrina, and I'm on the Millennial website.
Fantastic. Perfect. And we'll get all that. So it'll be linked in the show notes below. So it'll be a nice, easy click so that you can go find Sabrina.
Yay.
I hate that we're hitting this time, but we are ending getting to the end of it. So is there any last bit of advice, wisdom, any golden nuggets that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Mm. Trust yourself and know that you already have the answers. You just maybe sometimes you just have to go dig for them, but the answers are all within you.
Love that. Such a powerful way to end it. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you,
And
Tanya.
thank you so much to all of our listeners. This has been another episode of Millennial Life Coaches, How to Get Ahead, and we cannot wait to see you on the next one.